Hey you guys, how are you? Kim Schaper here. Today we're going to talk about adrenal fatigue, otherwise known as HPA axis dysregulation. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the 4 stages of adrenal burnout. We're going to talk about ways to heal your adrenals and also how to test for adrenal function. So what is adrenal fatigue? Adrenal fatigue essentially is the body's way of not being able to produce proper amounts of cortisol during times of high stress. So typically adrenal fatigue can be caused from prolonged stress or a very significant amount of stress. So a one bout amount of stress might be something like a divorce, the death of a loved one, marriage, moving, all of those sort of things. And then more prolonged stress would be excessive exercise, always hurrying, living off sugar, alcohol, caffeine, chronically staying busy, overachieving. All of these things can contribute to adrenal issues. When the adrenals are not firing properly, this can lead to breakdowns of other hormones in the body and neurotransmitters, things like GABA, norepinephrine, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA. All of these things play a factor. And when the adrenals take a hit, everything else tends to take a hit as well. You can kind of view it as a domino effect. Adrenal fatigue affects nearly every bodily function. So if your adrenal glands are shrinking, I can promise you you're not going to have that oomph to get up and go because it is affecting your other hormones as well. Your endocrine system works on a feedback loop. So when your adrenals are kind of tanked, it's going to affect other issues. So you might have a low thyroid, you might have low progesterone, low testosterone. All of these things play a part together. There's typically 4 stages of adrenal fatigue. So number 1 would be wired and tired. So this really feels like where you are superwoman. You are ready to crush, you're going 100 miles an hour, you feel amazing, you feel on top of the world, like you can accomplish anything. During this phase, you might notice a little bit of an imbalance of neurotransmitters, like you just might notice a mild bit of depression. You might notice underlying anxiety. You might even notice you're just more crabby than normal or a bit more snappy than usual. That's very common in stage 1. During phase 1, your body can still produce a significant amount of cortisol. So you're not going to notice a huge flux in different types of symptoms. If you were to get your labs done, it might show a spike of norepinephrine, maybe elevated levels of DHEA. During phase 1, it can be kind of addictive because you feel like you can accomplish so much. You might be staying up late, knocking out a ton of tasks at once. You might be living off a little bit of sleep, so you feel like, yes, I've got this. It almost feels like an addiction because you are in that fight or flight stage. Stage 2, you're going to feel a little bit more stressed and depressed. This typically happens when you're dealing with a bunch of different life stuff, juggling the kids, work, chores, yourself, trying to manage everything under the sun. Even though your body's starting to break down just a little bit and there are some alarm bells going off, you can still accomplish quite a bit during this phase. What you might notice though, especially if you had lab work done, your DHEA, progesterone, and testosterone will start to drop a little bit. Phase 2 is typically the side effects would be things such as daytime fatigue, dependence on coffee or caffeine to get you through the day, maybe underlying feelings of feeling really tired, but you're also feeling very wired, so you can't really sleep too well. Typically during this phase, your cortisol will peak in the morning as usual, and then as the day goes on, especially mid-afternoon, you're going to notice a major slump. You're going to feel more fatigued, more flatlined. This might be a time you might rely on extra caffeine to get you through the day. This is also the phase when cortisol starts to spike at night and your body's like, yes, I get to lay down and relax. But then your body's like, no, I'm ready to go and crush it. Let's go, let's do it. So these are little signs and symptoms you should start paying attention to. Also during phase 2, you might notice a little bit of issues with digestion. So a bit more bloating, more constipation, diarrhea, those sort of things. And typically during phase 2, your sleep isn't super restorative. You're going to kind of toss and turn during the night. You might wake up between 1 and 3 a.m. This is also a sign of low progesterone. So these are the commonalities with phase 2. So phase 3 is more the burnout phase. This is going to be where you're definitely going to notice some shifts. Your DHEA, your progesterone, your testosterone, all of those are going to tank pretty hard because your body's trying so hard to keep up with the excessive cortisol release. You're probably going to have more hormonal side effects during this time. So definitely signs of more PMS, more ovarian cysts, lots of really bad headaches, maybe even some acne. During this phase, you can still function. However, your sex drive is going to tank a little bit. You're going to notice definite more fatigue throughout the day. What you could have done at one point, you notice is a bit more of a struggle right now. Your energy, your sex drive, your stamina, it's definitely decreased throughout the day and it's much more noticeable. You might start to lose muscle mass, start gaining a little bit of belly fat, definitely noticing less signs of motivation and the get up and umph, let's go, let's do this. You definitely feel more fatigued as well. This can also cause early menopausal symptoms as well. So more mood swings, more sweating, more night sweats, more breast tenderness. Also, skin problems come into play as well. So you're definitely going to see more acne, more breakouts. You're definitely going to notice more digestive issues as well. So constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, maybe even bouts of diarrhea. You might even notice that you're dealing with stress much more intensely than you did in the past. You might just fly off the handle for no reason. You might start bursting into tears for no apparent reason as well. You just feel very moody, very unstable. And here's the worst thing about stage number 3. This is where you really start to notice something's off. This is where women will typically go to their doctors because they're feeling more depressed and they're gaining weight and they're not feeling right. And this is when doctors will either put them on anti-anxiety or antidepressant medication, or they're going to give them the birth control pill. So women think by taking these and that's going to fix the problem. But many times the doctors don't get to the root of the issue and look at all the hormonal imbalances. So you can easily drop into stage 4 if you're not careful. And finally, stage number 4 is where you're just like done. Like you are just tired all the time. You feel essentially flatlined. You don't have any motivation at all. Even with a fair amount of sleep, you're still feeling incredibly exhausted. Even after 8-9 hours, you're still unable to fully function to the best of your ability. During this phase, your reserves are completely depleted. So again, you're just feeling immense amount of fatigue. Your cortisol level is super, super low. Again, it tanked pretty significantly, especially after coming off high levels of cortisol for a prolonged period of time. This is where women will say, hey, do I have high cortisol or do I have low cortisol? Lower cortisol also hinders your conversion of your T4 to T3 thyroid hormone. So it's definitely going to put you in more of a hypothyroid state. So dry, patchy skin, weight gain, rashes, crappy skin, breakouts, constipation, all of these things go with it. So yes, this part is a bitch. In addition to these physical symptoms, it also affects your neurotransmitters pretty bad. So you're going to feel more depressed, more anxious. You're going to crave more carbohydrates, more sugary type foods just to try and boost your serotonin and dopamine. It'll also leave you feeling really frantic, again, depressed and craving lots of sugar and salt. This is kind of where you feel like you've lost your passion, where the desire for sex is non-existent. You have no motivation to do anything. The things that once brought you joy, now you could really care less about. So the $1 million question is, can you heal? Can you get better? And the answer is yes, but you have to be super strategic about it, really patient, and really give yourself and your body time to heal and recover. I've been down this road before. Actually, I've been down this road a few times, and it is far from enjoyable. You always go from high cortisol to low cortisol, and you deal with all the symptoms and signs in between. So how can you test for adrenal fatigue? My favorite test is the Dutch test or a urine test because it's a 5-point marker to test your cortisol throughout the entire day. It also looks at your cortisol levels, your DHEA, your progesterone, your estrogen, your testosterone, your neurotransmitters. So this is a great way to really see what's going on with your cortisol output and your adrenal output. Not only is the urine or the saliva important, you can even do blood work as well, but what's most important is doing a comprehensive overview of the woman's life, what's going on. So you can do all these tests, you can take all these supplements, but if you're not looking at the entire picture, there's no way to really heal from the bottom up. That's what's most important, looking at the entire picture. And when you look at the entire picture, you're really able to help the client from a whole health approach, right? It's not just, okay, work on your nutrition. Okay, just work on your exercise. It's all combined. I hope you found this video super helpful. In the caption of the video, I'm going to talk about ways to help heal your adrenals. Anything from food and nutrition timing, as well as sleep, adaptogens, and some other stuff you can do as well. So stay tuned and make sure to read the caption as well. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to share with somebody. Thanks so much.